Have you ever carried burdens that were never truly yours? Silent grudges, sharp words that linger long after they were spoken, regrets that replay like a broken record. No matter how much you sleep, your soul still feels exhausted. Tonight, I invite you on a different kind of journey. This video is not just background sound to help you fall asleep. It is a mirror that lets you see why peace has felt so far away, and more importantly, how to bring it back home. Buddhism does not promise quick fix. It does not hand out shortcuts. Instead, it offers truth, sometimes gentle like cool water, sometimes sharp like a cold wind, but always carrying the seed of freedom. Because truth does not need decoration. It only needs to be faced, acknowledged, and embraced. Tonight, you will hear teachings drawn from ancient scriptures, connected with modern science, and spoken in the language of everyday life. These teachings are like gentle hands, pulling out the poison of the past, untying the knots of emotion, and giving you the strength to finally let go. This is for the part of you that is tired of replaying old pain from things that no longer exist. Tired of telling the same story again and again, as if it still has power over your present. If you feel that exhaustion deep inside, stay. Because what you are about to hear will not only help you rest tonight, but may also change the way you wake up tomorrow. Imagine this: when you lie down tonight, you no longer carry that heavy backpack filled with memories, with blame, with unnamed feelings. You set it down gently, like laying down a burden you've carried for far too long. And in that moment, you breathe deeper, your chest feels lighter, and your mind begins to clear. So, welcome to this journey of the inner mirror. Let us begin. It begins small. A heartbreak, a betrayal, an unjust word passing by like a cold wind. But instead of letting it drift away, the mind builds a chair for it. We pour it tea, give it a name, and invite it to stay. That is how suffering slowly becomes identity. It is not the pain you felt in the moment. It is the pain you wear like an old coat. Heavy, uncomfortable, yet familiar enough that you resist taking it off. Clinging turns a brief moment into a life sentence. The brain, trying to protect you, wraps itself around the wound. It places the wound at the very center of identity, and soon everything revolves around it. You wake up thinking about it. You work while still holding it, as if your entire life were orbiting a single point of pain. Buddhism teaches, clinging to pain is like gripping a hot coal, then blaming the fire for burning you. The tighter you hold, the deeper it burns, and the more your mind is consumed. A Harvard study reveals this truth as well. When people cling to painful memories, cortisol, the stress hormone, rises by 40%. And when cortisol stays high for too long, it creates chronic stress, disrupts sleep, weakens the immune system, and accelerates aging. What the mind holds on to, the body pays for. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, "The greatest enemy is the mind that cannot be controlled." Because that mind can turn a drop of water into an ocean, a small scratch into a wound that never heals. And yet, the same mind, when trained in mindfulness, can extinguish the fire. You can choose to stop feeding the flames. You can choose to set the coal down and let your hand finally heal. So let me ask you, in your life right now, is there a fire you've been feeding? An injustice you cannot forget? A word spoken years ago that still stings? Or perhaps a failure you refuse to forgive yourself for? If so, remember this. You don't have to feed it another day. You have the power to let it die out. Not by denying it, not by pretending it never happened, but by acknowledging it. This was an experience. It came, it went, and I no longer need to keep it alive. Because, in the end, no fire burns forever. It only lasts as long as you keep throwing in the wood. When you stop feeding it, it fades. And in the ashes left behind, you may discover not just pain, but a lesson worth carrying forward. In Buddhist teaching, there is a profound truth called anatta, no self. It means there is no fixed identity, no unchanging me. We are not solid blocks of stone. We are flowing processes, thoughts, emotions, and states of mind that arise, stay for a while, and then pass away. Suffering begins when we forget this. When we say, I am this pain, I am this failure, I am this wound, we turn temporary experiences into permanent prisons. We lock ourselves inside stories that were never meant to last. But remember, no thought stays forever. No emotion endures endlessly. Even the deepest pain is only a visitor, never the owner of the house. Why, then, do we keep feeding the fire of pain? Sometimes because pain is the last string that ties us to what mattered. We think that if we let go of the pain, we'll lose the person, the justice, or the memory tied to it. But the truth is, pain is not the person. Pain is not justice. Pain is only an echo. Healing begins the moment we stop telling the same story. Let me share a story. In New York, a businessman once lost everything in a failed investment. For years, he carried that failure like a scarlet letter. He introduced himself, even in silence, as, I am a failure. The belief dragged him into depression, sleepless nights, and distance from his family. One day, he joined a mindfulness retreat. Sitting in silence, he realized failure was only an event in the past. It did not define his entire being. He was not a failure. He was a living process, always changing, always capable of renewal. When he let go of the label, he opened himself to a new beginning, and he rebuilt his career. But more importantly, he found a peace that money had never given him. Because true identity was not success or failure. It was the awareness that no fixed self exists. This is the heart of anatta. When you stop clinging to I am, you begin to live free. You are no longer chained to an old story. You can be anything in this moment. Look at the sky over Michigan on a windy day. Clouds come and go, changing shape constantly. No cloud is permanent. The mind is the same. Thoughts and feelings pass through. If you know that clouds are not the sky, you will not fear the dark ones. You'll know they too will pass. In the same way, pain is not you. It is only a cloud. And you are the vast sky, wide enough to let everything come and go. So the next time your mind whispers, I am this pain, smile and answer, no, I am not. I am simply experiencing, and this experience too will pass. Words are energy. Once released, they can heal, or they can wound. Like an arrow, once it leaves the bow, it cannot be taken back. In the Noble Eightfold Path, the Buddha spoke of right speech. Not only the words we speak to others, but also the words we whisper to ourselves. Every sentence plants a seed in the mind. If the seed is wholesome, peace will grow. If the seed is toxic, suffering will bloom. Have you ever told yourself, "I'm not good enough"? "No one needs me"? "My life is a failure"? Each of those phrases is like poison dripping into the heart. And little by little, you start believing it's the truth. A Zen master once said, "Before you speak, pause and ask 3 questions. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it beneficial?" If the answer is no, then silence is the most beautiful response. The same rule applies to inner speech. When that inner critic starts shouting, test its words against the 3 gates. You'll find that most of those harsh voices are not true, not necessary, and never helpful. Modern science agrees. A Mayo Clinic study shows that practicing right speech can reduce anxiety by 30%. Why? Because kind words release oxytocin, the bonding and healing hormone, while harsh words trigger cortisol, the stress hormone. This means that every word you speak doesn't just shape someone else's world. It also shapes your own body, your own peace. Think of words like water. If the water is clean, it nourishes. If it's polluted, it poisons. Every phrase you speak can purify your inner stream or cloud it with toxins. So try this challenge today. Before you speak, pause for 1 breath. Ask yourself, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it beneficial? If it passes through the 3 gates, speak. If not, let silence do the speaking. And you'll notice something. That mindful silence becomes a detox for the soul. It isn't forced or awkward. It is silence filled with wisdom. Try it tonight. When negative thoughts rise, instead of letting them spill into words, pause, smile, and breathe. With just 1 mindful breath, you've planted a new seed, the seed of peace. In life, the first arrow is unavoidable. You lose someone you love. You are betrayed. You fail at something important. That is the first arrow, the pain of reality. But then, the mind does not stop there. It picks up that arrow, turns it over and over, and fires another one into your own heart. That is the second arrow, the arrow of memory. Imagine sitting quietly in your room. Suddenly, an old memory returns. Your chest tightens. Your heartbeat quickens. Your breath becomes shallow, as if the event is happening right now. But it isn't. It is only an echo. Mindfulness teaches us to recognize this is a memory, not the present moment. The event has already passed. Only the mind is still clinging, and the body reacts as though the past were alive again. Neuroscientists call this emotional replay. The brain cannot always distinguish between a vivid memory and a real experience. So every time you recall it, your body relives the pain as if it were fresh. Buddhism taught this long ago. In the scriptures it says, "The past has no power unless you give it attention." When you stop feeding it energy, the memory fades like smoke in the wind. So how do we drop the second arrow? First, learn to listen to the body. A tight chest, that is a signal. A lump in the throat, that too is a signal. Instead of letting the signal drag you into the past, breathe in, breathe out, and whisper, "This is only a memory." A Zen master once said, "You cannot stop the birds from flying overhead, but you can stop them from making a nest on your head." Memories are the same. They may pass through, but you don't need to give them a home. Picture a still lake. An arrow drops in, ripples spread across the surface. But if no more stones are thrown, the water calms again. The memory is the arrow. Your repeated attention is the stones. Letting go means stopping the stones. You may wonder, if I let go, does it mean I forget the past? Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means remembering without letting it stab you again. So the next time a painful memory returns, pause. Place your hand on your chest. Breathe deeply. And remind yourself, this is the second arrow. It no longer has power over me. Each time you practice this, the body learns to relax, and the memory becomes only a faded picture, not a bleeding wound. In today's world, instant reaction has become the default. A message arrives, you must reply immediately. A sharp word is spoken, you shoot one back. Something doesn't go your way, you explode. But Buddhism reminds us, wisdom is born in the pause. Non-reaction is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is a conscious choice, a quiet rebellion against a world addicted to speed. When you pause before reacting, you give yourself space to see clearly. You are no longer swept away by anger. You are not dragged around by fear. You stand in the middle, steady and aware. American researchers studied this. A group practiced meditation focused on non-reaction for 8 weeks. The results? Their sleep improved by 50%. Because when the body learns to rest in the pause, cortisol drops, the nervous system relaxes, and the mind slips easily into deep rest. Try watching your emotions. When anger rises, instead of exploding, whisper, "Anger is here." Then simply observe it, like watching a cloud drift across the sky. You don't need to push it away. You don't need to hold it close. You just witness it. In that moment, you are free. Free from unconscious reaction. Free from words you'll regret. Free from actions you cannot undo. The Buddha said in the Dhammapada, "Better than winning 1,000 battles is conquering yourself." Each time you pause instead of reacting, you win that inner battle. And that victory brings peace that lasts. So right now, let us practice together. Take a slow breath in. Exhale gently. For 3 breaths, do nothing but notice your body. Can you feel your heartbeat? The coolness of the air moving through your chest? This is the power of the pause. Tomorrow, when you face a situation that triggers you, remember this moment. Remember that strength does not always come from striking back. Sometimes, the greatest power is in the stillness of silence. Have you noticed how often we want the final word? The need to be right slips into every conversation. It feels like a small thing, but it is actually the ego demanding to be fed. That need is a form of clinging. It turns disagreements into threats. It turns dialogue into a battlefield. And even if you win, you may still lose your peace. Buddhism teaches humility as liberation. You do not need everyone to agree with you to rest in peace. True harmony comes not from being right, but from letting go of the need to be right. In Zen, there is a phrase, "Don't know mind." It does not mean ignorance. It means openness. Because the world is too vast for any of us to always be certain. When you dare to admit, "I don't know," you step into freedom. Freedom to learn. Freedom to listen. Freedom to grow. The Buddha said in the Dhammapada, The wise are victorious through silence. Silence is not defeat. It is the highest victory. The victory over ego itself. Picture yourself walking along a forest trail in America. The path curves and bends. You cannot see what lies ahead. But instead of demanding certainty, you smile and keep walking, trusting the journey. That is, don't know mind. So next time you find yourself in an argument, try releasing the need to be right. Listen without preparing a rebuttal. Notice how your body softens, your breath deepens, and your heart opens. Because in the end, what you truly want is not victory in debate, but peace after the conversation. Letting go of being right does not mean abandoning truth. It means not turning truth into a weapon. You can stand firm in your values and still hold compassion for the other. And that is real strength. In life, there are debts that never appear on paper. Yet we carry them every single day. They are emotional debts. An apology never spoken. A fairness never received. A wound never healed. Each day you wait for justice. You pay interest on that debt. You believe they owe you. But in reality, you are the one paying. You pay with restless nights. You pay with constant stress. You pay with the peace of your own heart. Forgiveness does not mean excusing wrong actions. It means unhooking yourself from the chain. It means no longer saying, "They owe me." Instead, you whisper, "They don't owe me anymore." And in that moment, you are free. Let me share a story. There was a mother in America who carried bitterness toward her son for many years. He had made mistakes, leaving her with scars that never seemed to heal. She waited for an apology, but it never came. Day after day, she lived in resentment. She repeated the story to anyone who would listen, hoping it would ease the burden. But instead, the bitterness only grew, stealing joy from her present life. One day, she attended a meditation retreat. In the silence, she heard the teaching. Forgiveness is not for them. Forgiveness is for you. And for the first time, she understood. She whispered inside, "My son does not owe me anymore." At that moment, her shoulders felt lighter. Not because her son had changed, but because she had released the chain from her own heart. That is the true power of forgiveness. You cannot control another person's karma, but you can choose to stop letting their actions control your life through resentment. The Buddha taught, forgiveness is one of the shortest paths to peace. When you forgive, you no longer tie yourself to the past. You open the door to the present and the future. So tonight, before you fall asleep, think of one emotional debt you've carried too long. Whisper, "I forgive. They don't owe me anymore." You may be surprised to find that those few words can bring you one of the most peaceful nights you've had in years. Deep within us, there is a voice that whispers, "I must be recognized. I must be defended. I am the center of everything." That voice is the ego. The ego is not an enemy. It is a survival mechanism. But suffering begins when the ego turns pain into identity. When you believe, "If I let go of this pain, I won't be myself anymore," that is when the ego tightens its grip. Buddhism teaches that the ego is like smoke. You mistake it for reality, but it is only a haze. When you shine the light of awareness on it, the smoke dissolves. Here is a simple practice. When you feel hurt and want to react, ask yourself, Is this me, or is this my ego? The question itself is like sunlight piercing the fog. You begin to see that the pain is not you. It is only a mask the mind has created. A teacher once said, "The ego is like a mask. Wear it long enough and you forget your real face." Taking off the mask does not mean losing yourself. It means returning home to who you truly are. Look at a misty morning by the lake. Everything seems blurry, hidden. But when the sun rises, the mist disappears, and the landscape shines in its true form. The ego is that mist. Awareness is the Sunday. How do you know when the ego is present? Whenever you feel the urge to defend yourself with anger, to prove you're right, or to control others, the ego is speaking. And the antidote is mindfulness. Pause. Take a deep breath. Whisper, "This is ego, not me." In that moment, the grip begins to loosen. You do not have to destroy the ego. You only need to see through it. And when you do, it dissolves like smoke rising into the sky. So the next time you catch yourself arguing just to prove your point, pause and smile. Say quietly, "This is ego, not me." And you may feel your heart soften, your breath ease, and peace flow back into your being. Have you ever felt drained after a conversation? Not because you talked too much, but because you absorbed the other person's emotions. We often act like sponges. Someone is sad, we become sad. Someone is angry, our own chest burns. Someone is anxious, our breath turns shaky. Slowly, we forget which feelings are theirs and which are ours. Buddhism teaches mindfulness as a gentle boundary. It allows you to recognize, this belongs to them. It does not belong to me. This does not mean coldness or indifference. It means you can care deeply without drowning in another person's storm. Modern science agrees. Psychologists distinguish between empathy, healthy resonance, and emotional fusion, losing yourself in another's pain. Fusion leads to burnout, but mindfulness protects compassion while still keeping your peace. One study found that practicing body scan meditation reduced emotional absorption by 35%. Why? Because when you tune into your own body, you anchor yourself in the present moment. And from that anchor, you cannot be swept away so easily. Try this small ritual. After an intense conversation, pause for 1 minute. Sit down. Place your hand on your belly. Take a deep breath in. Exhale slowly. And whisper, "I return to myself." You may notice, just one mindful breath is enough to reset your energy. You don't have to carry emotions that were never yours to begin with. Imagine standing at the ocean's edge. A wave rolls in, carrying debris to shore. You have two choices: hold on to it, or let the wave take it back. Mindfulness is choosing to let the wave carry it away. So next time someone vents their anger or fear, remember, you can listen with compassion, but you don't have to absorb it. You can be present, yet remain steady like a mountain. Because only when you protect your own energy can you truly be a source of peace for others. In your mind, there is often a quiet voice whispering, "I should do better. I should be stronger. I should already be healed." At first glance, the word "should" seems harmless. It feels like motivation. But in truth, "should" is a subtle form of violence. Because every time you say, "I should," you are secretly declaring, "I am not enough." Buddhism teaches that suffering does not come mainly from circumstances, but from resisting what island. And should is resistance disguised as improvement. It turns the present moment into an enemy. When you say, "I should be happier," you dismiss the small joys already here. When you say, "I should be more successful," you miss the wholeness of this step you're already taking. When you say, "I should have forgiven by now," you add pressure to a heart that simply needs gentleness. The way forward is not to abandon effort, but to change the language. Replace should with could. Instead of, "I should meditate every night," try, "I could meditate tonight." Could opens a door. Could gives you freedom. And in that freedom, progress happens naturally. Science confirms this. Studies in positive psychology show that people who use self-compassionate language recover faster from setbacks and are less prone to anxiety and depression. When you say, "I could," your nervous system relaxes. When you say, "I should," your body braces against attack, even though the attacker is you. In the Dhammapada, it is written, "Happiness comes from acceptance, not from force." That is the gentle reminder. Walk with compassion, not with the whip of shoulds. So tonight, try this. Each time you hear, "I should," pause. Whisper back, "I could." Notice how your body feels lighter, as though a burden has been set down. Because, in the end, you don't need to force yourself into an ideal version of who you think you must be. You only need to take small steps, guided by compassion, and each step will lead you naturally toward peace. Have you ever felt as if someone invisible is always watching you? A quiet voice inside whispering, "They're noticing. You must do better. You cannot make mistakes." This is the inner spectator. It creates an invisible pressure, making you live as if you are constantly on stage. And slowly, you stop living for yourself. You start living for an imagined audience. Buddhism teaches that when we cling to the self, we imagine constant judgment. But the truth is, most of the time, no one is paying as much attention to us as we think. So ask yourself, who is watching? Look closely, and you may find no one in the seats at all. Just you, your breath, and this moment. A Zen teacher once said, "Life does not need an audience. It only needs your presence." When you release the inner spectator, you release the pressure to perform. You begin to live more authentically. You begin to live more freely. Picture yourself in a quiet forest. No spotlight, no applause. Only the sound of wind moving through the trees. In that stillness, you realize you don't need to prove anything. You are allowed to stumble. You are allowed to rise again. You are allowed to live as a human being, not as a performer trapped in someone else's script. When you silence the inner spectator, creativity awakens. You dare to try. You dare to fail. You dare to live without fear of judgment. And in that freedom, peace naturally arises. So tonight, if the voice begins whispering, "They will judge you," gently reply, "There is no audience here." Then breathe in, breathe out, and let silence embrace you. In life, negative emotions will come. Anger, sadness, fear, disappointment, they are part of being human. The question is not whether they appear, but how we meet them when they do. Many believe mindfulness means pushing negativity away. But in truth, it means opening your arms and saying, "You are allowed to be here. Acceptance does not mean approval. It simply means allowing the emotion to pass through rather than getting stuck inside of you. Picture a still lake. A breeze creates ripples. If you let the wind move on, the lake returns to calm. But if you thrash your hands in the water trying to stop the ripples, the waves only grow. Emotions work the same way. Buddhism calls this state upekkha, equanimity, a calmness that does not cling and does not resist. You become like the lake, reflecting without distortion. With compassion, you whisper to yourself, you are allowed to feel. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be positive all the time. You just need to be honest with your heart. And something remarkable happens. When you give the feeling space, it begins to transform. Anger can soften into understanding. Fear can melt into gentleness. Sadness can deepen into compassion. Modern research shows that when people practice self-compassion during stress, the amygdala, the fear center of the brain, becomes less active. At the same time, regions linked to learning and resilience grow stronger. This means compassion literally reshapes the brain, turning negative energy into fuel for growth. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, don't push it away. Place a hand over your heart. Breathe in, breathe out, and whisper, "Hello, pain. You may stay, but you will not stay forever." Watch how the feeling slowly melts, like ice dissolving under the morning sundae. Even negative energy can be transmuted when met with compassion and presence. Resentment is an invisible chain. It binds not only your mind, but also your body, day after day. Notice what happens when you recall someone who hurt you. Your heartbeat quickens, your chest tightens, your breath becomes shallow. It feels as if the past is alive again. Buddhism teaches, holding on to resentment is like clutching a burning coal, waiting to throw it at someone else. But the first to be burned is always you. Science supports this too. Studies show that people who hold long-term resentment have blood pressure 20% higher than those who forgive. Resentment doesn't just hurt the spirit, it damages the body. Releasing resentment does not mean excusing the harm. It means choosing not to let it control your life anymore. It means choosing peace instead of bitterness. Freedom instead of imprisonment. Think of this. Someone insulted you years ago. They may have forgotten, but you replay it like a broken tape. That means they hurt you once, but you've hurt yourself thousands of times by repeating it. So why not put it down? Why not whisper, "I no longer carry you with me"? In the Dhammapada it is written, "The resentful sleep restlessly, the forgiving sleep in peace." Peace is not found in waiting for someone else to change. It is found in the moment you let go. Here is a small practice. Write the name of one person you still resent. Look at the paper. Whisper, "I choose peace. I choose release." Then tear the paper into pieces. This act is a symbol telling your mind, "I am free." Resentment freezes time. Letting go restores the flow of life. And in that flow, you can breathe deeper, love wider, and live lighter. The mind has a strange habit. It replays old pain again and again, as if repeating it could give us control. But in truth, this repetition is nothing more than an emotional echo chamber. Have you ever lain awake in bed, replaying the same story 100 times? Someone said something that hurt you. You relive it. Then imagine what you might have said in response. You create dozens of scenarios in your head, but none of them change what already happened. They are only echoes, bouncing endlessly in the mind. Buddhism teaches, when you let your mind replay the same story, you are building a prison out of echoes. Each repetition amplifies the pain, but you hold the key to step outside. The first step is labeling. When an old story rises, whisper, "This is a loop." By naming it, you separate yourself from it. You are no longer the victim inside the loop, but the witness outside it. The second step is using the breath to cut the rhythm. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly. Each breath is a new song, breaking the broken record in your mind. Modern psychology confirms this. When people recognize their ruminating cycles, activity in the brain's default mode network decreases. This is the region linked to repetitive, self-focused thinking. Recognition alone begins to loosen its hold. Imagine shouting into a canyon. Your voice echoes back many times. But if you fall silent, the final echo eventually fades. The mind is the same. When you stop adding energy, the echo dies away. So the next time you notice yourself replaying pain, pause, whisper, "This is just an echo." Then breathe, and notice how the loop weakens, until at last it dissolves in the silence of now. Because peace does not come from winning an argument with the past. Peace comes when you no longer join the argument at all. Pain is not only a burden, it is also a message. The challenge is learning to separate the message from the noise. Imagine it tuning into a radio during a storm. Sometimes you catch the singer's voice. Other times, it's nothing but static. The mind works the same way with pain. The message is the lesson. The static is the endless replay of stories and blame. Buddhism teaches, every experience of suffering contains a seed of wisdom. But if you hold on to the whole thing, you drown in the noise. The practice is to take the signal and release the rest. For example, failure may teach humility. Loss may teach appreciation for impermanence. Betrayal may teach the importance of boundaries. These are the signals. But retelling the story again and again, that is only noise. In the teaching of impermanence, the Buddha reminds us, nothing lasts forever. Not joy, not sorrow, not even pain. When you remember this truth, you can learn the lesson and let the rest dissolve. Neuroscience echoes this wisdom. When people reinterpret painful memories as lessons, stress regions of the brain quiet down, while areas linked to learning and resilience grow stronger. Meaning transforms pain into wisdom. So try this. Think of a hurt you still carry. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "What is the message hidden here?" Perhaps it teaches patience. Perhaps it teaches compassion. Or perhaps it simply teaches nothing is permanent. When you do this, pain becomes a teacher, not a jailer. Remember, the signal is always there, but you need stillness to hear it. In mindfulness, the noise fades, and wisdom emerges. Because in the end, pain does not come to destroy you. It comes to invite you to look deeper and to live more freely. There are times in life when you realize you are living in a toxic space. It may be a relationship, a job, or even a circle of friends. The air feels heavy, filled with conflict, negativity, and exhaustion. The usual reaction is to storm out in anger, to cut ties with resentment. But Buddhism teaches another way. Letting go does not have to be dramatic. It can be a soft exit. A soft exit does not carry bitterness. It does not need blame. It does not require revenge. It is simply loosening the knot, gently unhooking yourself from the chain. You can even create a small ritual. Sit quietly, close your eyes, whisper, "I release this story." Imagine the cord slowly sliding from your hand. No tugging, no tearing, just letting it drift away. There was once a woman who stayed in a stressful job for years. Every day she came home drained, but told herself, "I must endure. I cannot leave." One day, during meditation, she realized she didn't need to fight anymore. She could walk away gently, without anger, without hatred. She simply laid it down. And in that moment, she felt a new door open inside her. This is mindful letting go. You are not running away. You are stepping out. You are not denying. You are freeing. Picture yourself walking through a forest. There are dark, tangled trails. But then you notice a small path leading toward light. You do not need to cut down trees. You do not need to shout. You simply take the gentler path. That is the soft exit. So, if you are in a place that weighs heavy on your soul, ask yourself, can I leave gently? The answer is often yes. Because freedom is not always born from storms. Sometimes it arrives on quiet steps, steady and kind. Complaints are not always loud. Sometimes they come quietly. A sigh under your breath, a small shake of the head, a whisper inside, things should have been different. These subtle complaints may feel harmless, but slowly they steal your peace. Like drops of water wearing down stone, they carve away at your spirit day after day. Buddhism teaches that the root of suffering is resistance to reality. And every complaint, even the quiet ones, is a form of resistance. It is the mind saying, "I do not accept what I learned." When you complain, energy leaks. You lose presence in the moment. You hand over your peace to circumstances outside of you. There is a way to catch subtle complaints. Each time you sigh, ask, what do I really need right now? Perhaps you need rest. Perhaps you need water. Or perhaps you simply need to accept that life is not perfect. A teacher once said, "A complaint is the mind saying, I lack. Gratitude is the mind saying, I am enough." Shifting from complaint to gratitude is the turning point. Try it now. Think of something you often complain about. Maybe the weather. Maybe traffic. Maybe a family member. Now, search for one small thing to be grateful for in that very situation. Traffic? You have extra time to listen to music. Bad weather? You are safe inside. A difficult loved one? They are teaching you patience and compassion. When you shift your lens, complaint dissolves and peace returns. So, next time you catch yourself sighing, pause. Turn that sigh into a whisper of gratitude. Because every subtle complaint is a thief, but every moment of gratitude is a gift. In Pali, there is a beautiful word, metta. It is often translated as loving kindness or uncondicional compasión. But metta is not just an idea. It is a practice, a state of heart you can cultivate each day. Metta begins with yourself. Because if you cannot send compassion inward, it is hard to truly send it outward. So try whispering, "May I be at peace. May I be happy. May I be safe." These simple words are like a gentle embrace you give to your own heart. From there, metta expands. You send blessings to someone you love, "May you be at peace." Then to a friend. Then to someone difficult. And finally, to all beings everywhere. Modern research confirms its power. Studies show that those who practice metta meditation for 8 weeks report a 40% drop in negative emotions. They feel happier, less lonely, and sleep more peacefully. Buddhism calls metta the antidote to hatred, because when your heart radiates kindness, anger has no place to take root. Just as darkness disappears the moment light is lit, you don't need hours to practice. 1 minute is enough. 1 minute while waiting at a traffic light. 1 minute while standing in line. 1 minute before falling asleep. Each minute of metta is like a seed planted in the soil of your soul. Let's try it together now. Inhale. Exhale. Whisper, "May I be at peace." Now send it to someone you care for. "May you be at peace." Then, if you are ready, send it to someone who challenges you. "May you be at peace." Finally, extend it to the world. "May all beings be at peace." Do you feel the heart expanding? This expansion is the taste of metta. It is not a ritual far away. It is a way of living. And when you integrate metta into ordinary moments, your life becomes more than survival. It becomes a journey of love. Impermanence is not a distant philosophy. It is not locked away in ancient texts. Impermanence is in your breath. It is in the rhythm of your daily life. Every moment, everything changes. A green leaf today turns golden tomorrow. A storm that rages will eventually end. Even deep sorrow, no matter how heavy, will one day soften. Buddhism reminds us, if you embrace impermanence, loss becomes less frightening. If you forget impermanence, you live clinging, anxious, afraid of change. Look around your daily life. When the weather shifts, instead of complaining, smile and whisper, "This is impermanence." When an emotion rises and then falls, remind yourself, "This too is impermanence." When an opportunity comes and goes, breathe deeply and say, "Everything changes." Here's a practice. Each day, take 1 minute to notice something changing around you. The light in your room, the song of a bird, the sensation of your breath moving in and out. Each reminder tells you, nothing stands still. Science supports this. The human brain craves stability. But when you train in mindfulness of change, the brain becomes more flexible, less stressed by uncertainty. Picture autumn in New England. Leaves turning from green to crimson, then falling gently to the earth. The trees do not resist. They let go. And in letting go, they prepare for new life. Your life is no different. Every ending is a preparation for a beginning. And when you see the world through the lens of impermanence, you live lighter, more grateful, more free. So tonight, choose one small thing to observe as it changes. The sky as it darkens, a candle as it burns lower, or simply the rise and fall of your own breath. Whisper, "This is impermanence, and I can be at peace with it." Because impermanence is not here to frighten you. It is here to remind you, everything changes. Even the pain you carry in your heart. Buddhism has spoken about letting go for more than 2,500 years. Today, modern neuroscience confirms what the Buddha taught long ago. A study from the National Institutes of Health in the United States found that when people practice mindfulness regularly, activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain linked to calm and clarity, increases by 25%. At the same time, the amygdala, the fear and stress center, becomes quieter. This means letting go is not just a spiritual idea. It is a biological reality. The moment you release a heavy thought, your brain begins to heal. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack. The second you set it down, your body feels lighter. The same is true for the mind. When you put down the burden of old memories and grudges, the mind returns to its natural balance. Buddhism calls this equanimity. Science calls it neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. Two different languages pointing to the same truth. You can reshape your mind. Researchers have found that just 10 minutes of daily meditation, practiced consistently for 8 weeks, is enough to change brain structure. You don't need complicated rituals. You only need small, steady steps. And the benefits go beyond the brain. Letting go lowers blood pressure. It strengthens the immune system. It improves sleep. What begins in the mind ripples into every cell of the body. Buddhism has always taught that mind and body are one. Modern science now provides the evidence. Try this simple practice right now. Close your eyes. Take a slow breath in. Exhale gently. And whisper, "I release." 2 small words. But as you repeat them, your body feels lighter. Your mind feels freer. Because letting go is not just a spiritual choice. It is a medicine, prescribed by the Buddha centuries ago and validated by science today. We often imagine peace as a destination, but in truth, peace is a practice. And like any practice, it must be repeated until it becomes a habit. Buddhism never promises instant peace. It simply shows us that small, steady steps in the right direction will lead us there. So here is an invitation, a 7-day challenge. Each day, choose one fire in your heart to release. On the first day, maybe it's irritation with a colleague. On the second day, maybe it's an old fear. On the third day, maybe it's the habit of blaming yourself. And so on, until 7 small fires have been put out. You don't have to do anything dramatic. Simply write it down. Breathe with it. Look at it. Then whisper, "I choose to let this go." Think of it like training the mind, just as you would train the body. You don't lift heavy weights on the first day. You start small. But each repetition builds strength. And after a week, the change is undeniable. Researchers on habit formation say that repeating a new action for even 7 days begins to carve a new pathway in the brain. That pathway is the seed of a habit. And when the habit is peace, your entire life begins to shift. So imagine yourself 1 week from now, 7 days of letting go. 7 burdens placed gently on the ground. Your mind clearer. Your body lighter. Your nights deeper in rest. That is the reward for a simple commitment. Not perfection. Not grand gestures. Just small acts of release practiced daily. And if you share your journey, your light may inspire others to do the same. Because peace is contagious. One person's letting go can ripple outward, creating a softer world for everyone. So, will you take the challenge? 7 days, 7 small releases, and the beginning of lasting peace. Sometimes the deepest wisdom does not come from books. It comes from the quiet stories of ordinary lives. Across America, people are discovering the freedom of letting go in their own way. Take a farmer in the Midwest. He spent years tied to the success of his harvests. When the crops failed, he cursed the sky, the land, even himself. But one morning, as he watched the sunrise, he whispered, "Everything is impermanent." And he realized he was more than his fields. Patience, not production, defined his worth. Or consider a CEO in Silicon Valley. He worked 80 hours a week, chasing success, until his family slipped away from him. During a corporate meditation retreat, he saw clearly that wealth could not fill the emptiness inside. So he began with just 15 minutes of mindfulness each morning. 15 minutes that softened his anger, opened his ears to listen, and slowly rebuilt his bond with his family. Then there was a veteran in Texas. War had followed him home in nightmares and panic attacks. Medication dulled the pain, but never healed it. At a meditation center, he learned to breathe with his memories instead of fighting them. When panic rose, he placed his hand on his chest and whispered, "This is only the second arrow." And over time, the nightmares loosened their grip. He slept peacefully for the first time in years. And a young student in New York. She carried the crushing weight of perfection. When she failed an exam, she felt her world collapse. But through a class on metta meditation, she learned to whisper, "May I be at peace." She discovered that her value was not in her grades, but in her capacity to love herself. These stories show us something simple. Letting go is not abstract philosophy. It is lived experience. It is possible for a farmer, a CEO, a veteran, a student, and for you. Because peace does not care about titles. It does not care about age. It does not care about where you come from. It only asks, are you ready to put the burden down? We live in an age where technology is everywhere. In our pockets, on our desks, even beside our beds at night. Social media, emails, notifications, all of them like small fires, constantly demanding our attention. If we are not mindful, technology feeds anxiety instead of peace. Scrolling before bed fills the mind with comparison and noise. Checking emails first thing in the morning starts the day with stress instead of stillness. Buddhism does not reject technology. It simply asks us to use it with awareness, because technology itself is neutral. It reflects the state of the one holding it. Here is a simple practice. Before unlocking your phone, pause. Take one deep breath. Ask, why am I opening this? If it is for something meaningful, proceed. If it is just habit, gently put it down. You can also turn technology into an ally. There are apps that remind you to breathe, apps that ring a soft bell each hour, apps that guide you through short meditations. Even one mindful minute, guided by technology, can shift the tone of your entire day. At Stanford, researchers discovered that people who used mindfulness apps for just 10 minutes a day reported lower stress and greater focus. Technology, when used wisely, becomes a bridge to peace instead of a barrier. So try this. Set your phone to Do Not Disturb at night and protect your sleep. Download a simple breathing app and let it ring like a temple bell during the day. Transform the same device that distracts you into one that awakens you. Buddhism in the digital age is not about escaping from technology. It is about being mindful within technology. When you choose how to engage, you are no longer pulled around by the noise. Instead, you use the tools of today to nourish the timeless peace inside you. Deep inside, we all long for one thing: freedom. Not just the freedom to move where we wish, not just the freedom to speak our minds, but the freedom of the heart. Buddhism calls this liberation. Liberation is not running away from life. It is not throwing everything aside. Liberation is letting go. It is the art of non-attachment. It is living without letting anything own your mind. When you cling tightly, you suffer. When you release, you become light. Freedom is not about how much you hold, but about how much you are willing to set down. The scriptures say, liberation comes through letting go. 6 simple words, yet they carry the essence of peace. Imagine standing in a wide, open field. No fences, no chains, only sky stretching endlessly above you. That is what true freedom feels like, when the mind is no longer bound. Some think freedom means doing whatever you want. But if you are enslaved by desire, you are not free at all. True freedom is smiling at desire without being pulled by it. A Zen master once said, "The moment I stopped needing to control everything, I became free." Freedom is not bending the universe to your will. It is learning to flow with it. If you listen closely, you may hear a whisper. It does not shout. It does not demand. It simply says, you are already enough. You can let go, and you are free. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine invisible strings loosening one by one. The string of resentment, the string of fear, the string of control. As they fall away, feel the gentle whisper of freedom. This is what it means to be free. Deep inside, we all long for one thing: freedom. Not just the freedom to move where we wish, not just the freedom to speak our minds, but the freedom of the heart. Buddhism calls this liberation. Liberation is not running away from life. It is not throwing everything aside. Liberation is letting go. It is the art of non-attachment. It is living without letting anything own your mind. When you cling tightly, you suffer. When you release, you become light. Freedom is not about how much you hold, but about how much you are willing to set down. The scriptures say, liberation comes through letting go. 6 simple words, yet they carry the essence of peace. Imagine standing in a wide open field. No fences, no chains, only sky stretching endlessly above you. That is what true freedom feels like, when the mind is no longer bound. Some think freedom means doing whatever you want. But if you are enslaved by desire, you are not free at all. True freedom is smiling at desire without being pulled by it. A Zen master once said, "The moment I stopped needing to control everything, I became free." Freedom is not bending the universe to your will. It is learning to flow with it. If you listen closely, you may hear a whisper. It does not shout. It does not demand. It simply says, you are already enough. You can let go, and you are free. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine invisible strings loosening one by one. The string of resentment, the string of fear, the string of control. As they fall away, Feel the gentle whisper of freedom. This is what it means to be free.